Escaped relentless false allegations from my kids and ex-wife, but now I'm starting over alone to find peace. Last year I was arrested due to allegations that my children made up that took over a month to be proven as false. During that time I was depressed, anxious, barely eating, had multiple emotional breakdowns. My ex told me she wanted a divorce a few days before our wedding anniversary, but then sent me a message on the day of our anniversary thanking me for all I've done for her and the kids. That sent me into another emotional breakdown. I was scared of losing my job that I had barely had for a year at that point. It was just blow after blow, it seemed like. When the truth got revealed that I hadn't done anything, I was so relieved. It took some time for me to trust my kids again, and I honestly still have some issues with that. My ex and I had a long talk over a couple of days about getting into marriage counseling, family counseling, and individual counseling to help get through this. I thought things were going well for a while. Then my ex started hanging out at a friend's house she made at church more often, taking the kids with her as well. Multiple times a week I came home from work and no one was at the house. Instead they were over at this friend's place and spending the night. We had to evacuate where we lived due to weather conditions, and this friend and their spouse offered their home to us to help us out, which I greatly appreciated at the time. My ex kept badgering me to agree to just move in with them and out of our old place so that we can split the bills and rent and save money. I agreed, mainly just to keep the peace and get the badgering to stop. I went back to the old place in May and started packing things up and getting stuff put into a storage unit since all of our belongings and furniture wouldn't fit in their house. I'm set to have everything out by the end of June. I get out of work the other day and I'm served paperwork by the deputy, saying that there are new allegations against me. I, obviously, haven't been arrested this time. My ex blocked me at some point during the day while I was at work. I'm lucky that I was able to find a new place to rent pretty quickly and sign paperwork and pay the deposit and rent. I'm just so tired. I'm having flashbacks to last year again. My whole body feels tense. I keep catching myself clenching my jaw. I just want to break down and cry and scream and rage. I didn't know it was possible to feel this tired. I'm working even more overtime than I used to so that I can get the things I need for this new place. I personally don't own much out of everything in our old home. I just want to rest. I'm so tired. A lot of details have been kept out on purpose. I don't need people outside of Reddit figuring out who I'm. Hold on, because this is a doozy. I'm going to omit some details to help keep myself from getting doxxed about this whole thing. Last year my kids, 9F and 7M, ran away late at night/early in the morning. When found by some city officials, they claimed I kicked them out of the house. I woke up the morning up to the cops and CPS knocking on the door. I told my side of the story from what I knew and they had my, now ex-wife, tell her side while keeping us separated. The cops claim our stories don't match and end up arresting me. I bail myself out that same day and go live with my parents for a while. I'm dealing with court, scared that I'm going back to jail or prison and that I'll lose my job that I had only been at for a year. A little over a month goes by and I get a phone call to have a meeting with the CPS woman in charge of our case. My daughter ended up making more allegations against me that did not make any sense to the CPS people, and when they asked her questions, she was unable to give them answers. My son ended up breaking first and admitting the whole thing was made up and that my daughter was the one to orchestrate everything. This reveal led to the charges being dropped and my daughter getting counseling and psychiatric help. For a while I thought things were good. We were on our way to fix things. I kept trying to get all of us into therapy, both individually and family. I was already in therapy due to this whole situation anyway. My ex kept dragging her feet and it never went anywhere. After some other situations with being displaced due to a natural disaster and me trying to get things packed up in our old apartment, I get told by my ex she wants a divorce, so now I'm having to rush and try to find a place to live, which I did luckily. I actually move in tomorrow. On the 14th of June I get served an emergency protection order by the county sheriff's office. I'm told it's because I allegedly hit my son and gave him a concussion while in the grocery store, where there are cameras. He had been taken to the emergency room by my ex on the 14th, but this event allegedly happened on the 10th. I had told my ex that due to me having to get this house to rent, along with utilities in my name, adding up to over $2,000, that I wasn't going to be able to pay certain bills this month, but that I'll get them caught up as soon as I can to get everything paid off and even. I signed for the deposit on the 11th and the kids had been with her while I did this paperwork and there was no issue. On the same morning I had taken my kids to the park so they could play and recorded videos of them being silly and having fun. I was talking to my therapist this week and I told her what was going on and how I felt about being around my ex or the children. It's 2 years in a row of false allegations. I want nothing to do with any of them now. I'll pay child support gladly. I had an agreement with my ex before this all happened of paying $1,000 a month, $500 per paycheck, for child support. Update 1. My ex-wife and I were still together when the kids ran away last year. My side of the story during that was that I came home from work, talked with the kids and wife, gave the kids their melatonin gummies before sending them to bed, after which I took a shower before making me something for dinner and cleaning up afterwards. By this point my ex was asleep already, and so were the kids. When CPS and the mental health professionals were talking to my daughter after everything got cleared, she was saying the voices she was hearing were telling her to do things. The mental health professionals said this sounded too rehearsed to them. It later got revealed that she was watching videos on YouTube about kids pranking their parents and she wanted to try it out herself. She had access to YouTube due to tablets that my mill had given the kids for Christmas back in 2023, which I disagreed with but I was ignored. At the time, and to this day, I do not believe my ex had a hand in the running away situation. On to this year, my son went to the ER on the 14th because he had, and I quote from the paperwork I was given, dizziness, lightheaded feeling, and a nosebleed. Nothing is finished with this situation yet and nothing has been decided in terms of child support. We go back to court next month to revisit this after the investigation has finished. On the day I received the EPO I talked to a state trooper and told him the kids' history, showed the videos of my kids playing, and showed receipts on my banking app from when we were at Walmart and at what time we were there. As of right now I haven't heard anything else. I have already been interviewed by CPS and informed them of the same things I told the state trooper because it is a different person on this case as my ex and kids live in a different county at the moment. This time I firmly believe that my ex is behind this due to my telling her some of the bills would have to wait because I'm having to pay approximately $2,500 to move, put down deposits and pay first and last month rent. I haven't seen my kids since I dropped them off to my grandparents on the afternoon of the 11th. I have not made a decision about staying away from my kids, but I do plan on talking to a lawyer in the next couple of days and I'm looking into security for my house and a discreet body camera to wear like many other users have said. I'll try to answer any other questions that I can but I move tomorrow and I have some last minute things to pack up and place in my car and move downstairs. Update 2. When I first posted this I was not in a good headspace and I realized that I wasn't very clear. To be honest I'm still not in a good headspace, but it's a little bit better. For starters, these false allegations started last year when my kids were 9 and 7. When I said 2 years I meant calendar years. When I said I spoke to the police about my side of the story last year, I meant what happened the night before the police and CPS showed up at the front door. I had gotten home, spent some time with the kids and my ex, then wife, before giving the kids their melatonin gummies. This was done on an as-needed basis, mainly 2 to 3 times a week at most. After that I went and took a shower, made myself some dinner, then ate and cleaned up the kitchen before spending more time with my then wife before we both went to bed. Due to a contraction happening when she was being given the epidural, she sleeps better propped up so she slept on the couch while myself and the kids slept upstairs. The next morning is when I woke up to the cops at the door with CPS. I was charged with child abandonment and arrested. It took over a month for the truth to come out about my kids making this up due to the fact my daughter was saying I was having sex with her. The CPS agent conducting the investigation tried to ask more details and that's when my daughter started crying and admitted she made it up because she couldn't give details. The only reason my daughter even knew what sex was is because my ex and I were in the bedroom and we both thought the other locked the door and my daughter walked in on us. Moving to now, I don't know how my son got this supposed concussion. We had court again on Monday, the 21st, and when the judge asked her she told him that after talking with the state trooper we have decided to not press criminal charges. I asked the judge if there was any evidence that they had about what they're claiming I did and he told me that since no charges were filed, there's no evidence gathered to give to me. I want to thank everyone for their answers on my last post. Thinking about those feelings was making me sick to my stomach and I just needed some perspectives from people who weren't emotionally involved. I thought about this since last month and I made the decision to tell the judge I want the divorce process and this EPO to be over and done with and that I just want to be left alone. I'm still questioning if this was the right decision or not. I'm just not sure what else I could do. I work 12-hour days 5 to 6 days a week. I have no way to take care of the kids so I can't take them in. Even then, am I supposed to get to the point where the court system says supervised visits aren't needed anymore and just start wearing a body camera around the kids and just be scared all the time? Looking over my shoulder constantly just to make sure that I'm not going to end up in jail again? We have a hearing set up for December to hopefully get everything finalized and finished. I keep thinking about the kids going trick or treating in 3 months, going back to school next month, how we won't be decorating Christmas trees together or making cookies for Santa and I start crying all over again. Update 3. So this is a really small update that I wasn't expecting to make. I had left a voicemail for the CPS agent assigned to the current situation with my son asking for an update on everything because I haven't heard anything since June. She had to look in her case notes but everything has been found to be unsubstantiated. I should be getting the official paperwork in a few days to a week in the mail. I'm not sure how to feel about this, honestly. I'm relieved that the truth has come out about these allegations, angry that this has happened to me twice now, happy that this is one step closer to being finished. I want to cry but I couldn't tell you the specific emotion that's causing it. I'm taking some other Redditors' words to heart and putting in a request to my state police records department to get copies of any and all paperwork, evidence or lack thereof, anything I can get my hands on from them. I'm also getting copies of my son's medical records so I can see exactly what was found back in June. Update 4. I'm just tired. I want this over with. I want things to go back to January when all I had to worry about was the fact I was recovering from a car wreck and couldn't even help take down the Christmas trees and get a new car. So, I'm not sure what the hell happened. My cat somehow got me a girlfriend. I had put in a picture of me holding my cat along with a cute one of him from where he was sleeping. I got a message on the dating app I had made, I honestly forgot about it after a couple days because I read the advice on this sub and just kept working on myself a bit, about how he's a cute kitty and looked like one of hers. We started talking about our cats, the weird/dumb/silly things they do, and eventually started flirting before moving from the dating app to texting after exchanging numbers. We talked more and got to hang out a few times, and I swear the odds of the coincidences is weird. We both have matching opinions on candy corn, the candy pumpkins that come out this time of year, and circus peanuts. When we got to the sexual interest part of the conversation, a lot of our stuff matches up. We both love the Boondock Saints movies. One of her pets is named after one of the brothers. I started collecting vinyl records recently after buying a record player and wanted to get records of my CD collection after they had gotten destroyed in a car wreck, and when I mentioned I was excited to try and find a record of a certain album by a certain country artist because it was the first CD I had bought for myself with my own money, it turns out she had bought the same album when she first bought a CD herself. I have a certain theme in mind for my kitchen, and I went thrifting the other week just to see what I could find. Turns out her mom works at one of the stores I went to, and she was the one working when I went shopping. So I've already met her mom, and she should already like me because I gave her my money, lol. Also, this poor woman is screwed. She hates receiving presents. One of my love languages is gift giving. Oh lol. When we were hanging out a few days ago, I decided to take a chance and ask her if she wanted our relationship official, and she said yes. I'm currently trying to curb myself from being too clingy right now because I know I'm likely to go overboard considering the isolation I was/am going through for the most part right now. All this happened because of my dingus of a cat who digs in the water bowl like a dog and then complains when the bowl is empty and water is on the floor. What in the world is my life? Update 5. I'm NTA for feeling this way, the ones who said this was fake AI bull, which got me laughing a bit, and for all the advice everyone's given me. Second, for the ones who DM'd me, I also want to say thank you for reaching out. I may not have answered, but I really appreciated reading the messages. After my last update, I tried looking for something to do on my days off of work. My first thought was the animal shelter nearby because it's not even a 5-minute drive from my house. Turns out it's closed on my days off. I looked around for neighboring counties and those were even less helpful. A lot of them required I attend some sort of orientation, but there's no set day of the week for the orientations. I know it would be good for my mental health in the long run, but in the short term taking a day off from work, potentially, to attend the orientation and making my paycheck smaller isn't helpful. So I decided to try dating. I wasn't going into this looking for anything serious, I was wanting to try some casual dates to just get out of the house and meet people. That's not what happened. I made a profile on a dating app and kinda just left it alone. One of the pictures I had put on there was of my cat. He's an orange cat presenting as a tuxedo cat. No brain cell whatsoever. I got a message and this woman was talking about how cute my cat was and how he matched one of hers. We talked about our cats for a while, then things got flirty and I asked her out on a date. I feel like it went well, since she stuck around anyway. We found out that there are so many similarities between what we like and our senses of humor that my friends think I found a female version of myself, which I think is funny because when she meets them that means they're screwed. After almost a month of us talking and going on the occasional date, I told her I had some things to tell her and then something to ask her. I was upfront with everything that happened last year and this year, showing her the paperwork that I had to show that I was innocent in all of this. After telling her all of this, I asked if she still wanted to stick around or if she wanted to walk away and not get dragged into any drama that she could get put through just because of us having a relationship. She hugged me, cried for me, which got me to start crying, and told me that she was sorry I had to go through something like that. Once the two of us stopped trying to flood my house from crying, more myself than her, I asked her if she wanted to make things official between us and she said yes. I was honestly so scared to tell her about what happened with my kids and ex. I was dead certain that once I told any prospective girlfriend this, they would walk away so that their own lives wouldn't get ruined. But she stayed, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. We agreed to take it slow so that we don't rush into anything too quickly. I can't remember which of my posts it was on, and to be honest there's too many comments on them all to be able to find them, but a Redditor said that, essentially, they hope I find someone and can actually be happy after all of this drama with my ex-wife and kids. I want to thank them for saying that, because between them speaking it into existence and my cat being, well, him, it seems to have worked. I'm not back up to 100% though. I'm still scared that something else will happen that will somehow mess my life up even more. I'm scared of the cops showing up at my house with new allegations even though I haven't done anything. I'm scared of running into my ex or the kids in public just by going grocery shopping and somehow getting arrested over it. Every time I drive home and a sheriff, state police, or city police vehicle comes down towards me or drives by the house I can feel my anxiety spike. I have cameras up that record my front door, back door, and where I park my car outside my house and cameras inside that cover my front door and my back door. I have other means of showing my location on my phone and where I've traveled, if I've traveled at all that day. I keep any receipts from shopping or even grabbing something to eat while in town just so I have timestamps of where I've been and when I was there. It's a mess, but I'm doing what I can. I'm looking forward to learning more about my girlfriend that my dingus of a cat helped me meet. I'm looking forward to being able to not live in fear of police. I'm looking forward to being able to live and not just not die right now. Again, I want to thank everyone for their thoughts, advice, comments, everything. I'm still gathering paperwork and what evidence I can about all of this, and sadly I still don't have answers about why this has been happening. I don't know how my son got this supposed concussion. I don't know if my ex is coaching them. I don't know if someone is in their lives because of my ex that is causing all of this. I don't know if I'll get those answers, but right now I'm going to keep searching and fighting for myself until I either can't find anything else or I get answers. Update 6. I wasn't planning on posting again for a while, but this week has been a fever dream on mute and I needed to get it out of my system somewhere that isn't my therapist's poor office ficus. First, the mail finally caught up with me. The CPS letter showed up, the official envelope I've been dreading/anticipating since June, and even though the caseworker already told me over voicemail what it would say, my hands still shook opening it. Unsubstantiated. They spelled out that the accounts were inconsistent, there was no corroborating evidence, and that no further action would be taken. I put it on my kitchen counter, next to the microwave like it was a trophy and not paperwork that made my chest cave in. 2 days later I got the hospital records I requested. The ER notes used a lot of words I had to Google, but it basically said no loss of consciousness, no vomiting, normal neuro exam, no external signs of trauma, and epistaxis likely from mucosal dryness/irritation. No imaging was ordered. There's a checkbox for concussion suspected, and it wasn't checked. He was discharged with instructions about rest, fluids, and to return if symptoms worsened. It also says patient reports dizziness x1 day and no specific head injury event identified. I had to sit down after reading that line. I don't know if relief can feel like a punch to the stomach, but that's exactly what it felt like. The State Police Records Department came through too. I got an email with a secure link and a passcode instead of a disk, which was nice because I didn't want to explain to my boss why I'm playing detective with a flash drive on my lunch break. There's body cam video from the trooper who served me the EPO and who took my ex's initial statement. It is one of the strangest experiences in the world to hear your name and the word concussion on a stranger's chest mic. I only watched it once, with my lawyer on speaker, and I wrote down timestamps. In the video, the trooper asks her what all had happened in, and she says it was in produce, and then a minute later says actually I think it was near the cereal. He asks what day, she says Monday, then says no, Sunday night. The trooper tells her the store has cameras, and you can hear him saying he'll have to ask for them. Then there's this long pause where you can hear the kids in the background, and my son says something about the slide. The trooper asks what slide? And my ex says at the park we went to before. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. I have the park videos from that morning of the 11th saved in 3 different places now. I sent the link and the hospital chart to my lawyer, and he emailed me back a single sentence. This is exactly what we needed. We had a status hearing this week. I put on the one decent shirt I haven't destroyed moving furniture. My lawyer met me outside the courthouse with a coffee like he's started doing. It helps me not shake as much when I have something to hold, and we went in. I was braced for it to go sideways because that's how my brain works now, but the judge had the CPS letter in front of him, glanced at the ER records, and turned to my ex and asked her if she had any additional evidence to support maintaining the EPO. She said no. He looked tired. He dissolved the EPO, put in a mutual no harassment/no contact order except through counsel and a parenting app if we end up needing one, and set the December date to finalize the divorce like we already had. He told both of us that false allegations in custody matters will not be tolerated and that it's harmful to the children, and even though it wasn't the fireworks show I think part of me wanted, hearing it out loud in that room mattered. We walked out, and my legs forgot how to do stairs. I went outside and ugly cried against a sun-warmed brick wall while my lawyer pretended to respond to emails 2 feet away to give me enough dignity to get it together again. My girlfriend was parked across the street because she didn't want to add to the scene if my ex was around, and when I got in her car she just handed me a granola bar and said breathe. She also put my cat's favorite toy on my dashboard like a little orange talisman and I laughed so hard I hiccuped. Work tried to take a swing at my mental health too, but in a weirdly backward way. HR called me in because they got an anonymous email with a link to a Facebook profile that isn't mine and a bunch of weird claims about me being under investigation. I was already carrying a manila folder of my own paperwork because of court, so I laid the CPS letter and the ER notes on the desk like I was playing the world's worst game of Go Fish. My boss, who is the kind of man who says fella unironically, backed me up immediately, told HR I'd already disclosed there'd been an EPO and that it was dissolved, and asked me if I needed to step off the schedule for a day to catch my breath. I didn't take it because overtime has become my nervous system, but it mattered to be asked. On the home front, the cat diplomacy summit happened. We did the slow scent swap thing between my cat and my girlfriend's cat with socks like absolute lunatics, and then this weekend we tried a face-to-face meet. My idiot tuxedo and orange fursuit walked out, puffed up like a raccoon balled up in a sweater. Her cat hissed exactly once and then climbed onto my TV stand and knocked down all the coasters. Neutral ground achieved, I guess. I slept over there one night. No, I did not meet her entire extended family at once. Yes, I met her brother briefly when he came to drop off a ladder. He is also a chaos goblin, and realized I was bracing for a police knock on the door that never came. My jaw didn't hurt in the morning for the first time since June. Therapy is doing its slow, weird magic. We started EMDR, which feels like trying to defrag a hard drive built by raccoons. I held the little tappers, we targeted the sound of the deputy's knock, and my brain threw up a carousel of images. The porch light halo, the exact shade of the Walmart uniform the greeter was wearing that morning, the way my daughter's shoes squeaked when she ran away from me the last time I saw her. I felt ridiculous, and then I felt empty, and then I went home and slept for 6 hours without waking up to check my cameras. I still check them, just later. I can't tell if that's progress or exhaustion. I got another call I wasn't expecting, the kid's school counselor. She had my number still from back when the school forms had both of us on them and wanted to confirm my updated address for records and to ask if I wanted to be included on the school notifications. I froze, because I don't know what the right move is when I ask the court to just leave me alone. I told her the court orders are in flux and that we're back in December. She said okay, that she wasn't trying to step on anything, she just wanted to make sure both parents were getting information. I spent the rest of the afternoon oscillating between wanting to sign up for every email and wanting to move to a cabin and communicate by smoke signal. This part is delicate, so I'm going to be careful. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be the church friend. It wasn't long, and I'm not going to post it because I'm not trying to add gasoline to a bonfire, but the gist was that she didn't realize how bad things had gotten between us, that she's sorry for anything she did that made it worse, and that if anyone needed to talk to her about what she personally saw or didn't see, she would be honest. I forwarded it to my lawyer and then put my phone face down and stared at my ceiling until my cat jumped on my throat and reminded me I'm mortal. I also found out something small and stupid that still punched a hole in me. I went to grab groceries after work and walked right into a Halloween display. There were those plastic pumpkins you carry for trick or treating stacked up like a pyramid. I used to have an annual argument with my son about whether the glow sticks go in before we leave or when we get to the first house. I stood there with a basket on my arm looking like a guy deciding between two brands of soup while a mom told her toddler he couldn't live in the costume aisle, because apparently Target wasn't taking applications for man crying by the seasonal candy. I went home, carved a pumpkin with my girlfriend on FaceTime because our schedules didn't line up, and we showed each other the messes our kitchens turned into. She laughed at mine and I told her hers looked like a murder scene starring a gourd. The last weird thing, and then I'll quit monopolizing the internet. My records request turned up the original 911 audio from June. I listened to it with my therapist's voice in my head telling me to stop if my hands went numb. It wasn't a dramatic call. It was my ex asking if she should bring our son in because he'd been dizzy and had a nosebleed and she was worried. The operator asked about head injury and my ex said I don't know, we were at the park. That's it. No mention of me hitting him in that first call. The grocery store concussion timeline appears in the trooper's body cam later. Maybe that doesn't matter in any legal sense, but to my scrambled brain it was a straight line for once and I needed one. I don't know what December is going to look like. My lawyer floated the idea of asking the court to include language about how any future medical concerns have to be reported to both parents within a certain time frame and that any interviews with the kids be done by neutral professionals, not family friends. He says judges don't love being told what to do but that sometimes they appreciate a plan that keeps their docket quieter. I told him I'm not backtracking on what I told the judge, I want this over with, I want to be left alone. If there's a day down the line where I don't feel like I'm wearing a bomb vest to the grocery store and the kids want to rebuild something with a therapist and a camera rolling and a third party supervising, we can revisit it then. Right now, I'm walking out of a battlefield with all my limbs, and that's enough. I bought a stupid ornament last night at a thrift store with my girlfriend's mom, who pretended not to see me panic when the clerk asked if I wanted to sign up for their email list because even that felt like put your name on a paper and my body said no. It's just a little ceramic cat wearing a Santa hat. I'll put it on my tree in December and probably cry and then feed my dingus for knocking it off at 2 a.m. Because that's who he is. I'm still tired. I'm still scared. But for the first time in a long time, when a cruiser rolled by my street tonight, I didn't stop breathing. I just watched the taillights disappear, locked my door, checked my cameras once, and went to bed. Update 7. I keep thinking there will be a week where nothing happens and I can talk about how I finally cleaned out the trunk of my car or learned how to make rice without Googling the water ratio again, but apparently my life is a subscription service for plot twists. The state police detective called me Monday morning while I was trying to coax coffee out of a machine that decided to unionize. He was polite in that clipped way people are when they're reading a script they wrote themselves. He told me they'd closed out their side of things and that the store's security footage didn't show any incident matching the allegation. His exact phrase was no contact consistent with, and then he trailed off because there wasn't a word that didn't sound like a hammer. He said the store manager had signed a short statement that there were no reports made by staff or customers that day either. I leaned on my counter and stared at the cat, who was sitting like a rotisserie chicken on my microwave, and mouthed okay because my voice took a detour. After I hung up, I put my phone on the charger and walked outside barefoot and stood on the cold concrete until my feet hurt enough to feel like I was back in my body. I sent my lawyer the detective's voicemail transcription and he wrote back good with a period. He's a man of few celebrations. If that was the first domino, the second was a PDF I did not expect. The church friend sent a notarized statement to my lawyer. It was 1 page, stamped in blue, and the only reason I know that is because my lawyer forwarded it with the subject line for your records. It says she never saw me be aggressive or physical with the kids, that she was around a lot, that in her presence my ex never described me hitting our son at a grocery store, and that on the day in question the kids mentioned the park. There's a line about a conversation where my ex told her she was overwhelmed and needed leverage to make me pay bills on time. Reading the word leverage made my molars touch again. I held it in both hands like it might burn. I don't know this woman beyond a couple of awkward potlucks and the longest month of my life, but whatever possessed her to go down to a notary and put pen to paper, whether it's her conscience or her own lawyer telling her to get ahead of it, I am grateful in a way that tastes like pennies. Mediation came next, fast-tracked because December is starting to look like the line for Santa. It was on Zoom with a retired judge who wore a tie that looked like a printer test page. My lawyer sat in my dining room because I think he's realized I focus better if I can make him coffee and shove muffins at him like I'm a flight attendant. My ex was in what looked like a bedroom. Her lawyer did most of the talking on their end. The mediator was exactly the tone of a patient bus driver. We went into separate breakout rooms and the retired judge popped between us like a vintage screensaver. They opened with property and bills and that was blessedly boring. Furniture they already have stays there, I keep what's in storage and what I've bought since I moved out. No spousal support. We put a dollar value on a few things that made me remember how expensive rugs are. Then the gluey part, kids. I told the mediator the same thing I told the judge, I am not seeking parenting time right now. The mediator nodded in that way therapists do when they're also trying to not cry. My lawyer floated language to put in the decree about any future reintroduction only happening through a licensed therapist with a plan, at the recommendation of a neutral evaluator, with all contacts supervised by a third party and recorded if possible, and with a notice requirement to both parents within 24 hours for medical issues. Ex's lawyer wrinkled her nose on video like she smelled a wet dog. The mediator left, came back, and said, they'll agree to the therapy plan language, and they'll agree to equal access to medical and school information, but they want the word recorded changed to monitored. My lawyer looked at me and I nodded because the word doesn't matter as much as what a judge will allow in practice. We also added a preseason rule about travel. Any out-of-state trips with the kids have to be communicated to both parents with itineraries. It felt like drafting a user manual for a product I no longer own but am liable for if it bursts into flames. At one point, the mediator asked if we wanted to speak directly for 5 minutes, limited to future logistics, and my stomach did a neat slow-motion flip. I said yes because I'm tired of being brave in therapy only. My ex looked down when the video shifted us into the same virtual square. She said she didn't coach them. I said I didn't hit him. We both said we want them to do well in school. It was like walking on bubble wrap over a canyon. Then the 5 minutes were over and the retired judge was back and we were adults again. We left the session with a tentative memorandum of agreement and a December date that was no longer a mystery portal but a clerk's stamp. When the Zoom ended, my lawyer put both hands flat on my table and said, "You did good." I nodded and put my forehead on the wood because I didn't trust my face to stay assembled if I tried words. The universe couldn't let me ride that out for even a day. At 1:14 a.m. that night, 2 knocks on my door. Not the cop knock. The your neighbor's light is on and it's raining knock. I checked the camera out of habit anyway and saw 2 deputies, hats in hands. My heart did that thing where it tries to sprint and remembers it's attached to a person. I opened the door with my phone in my hand, recording because that is how I know how to breathe now. They were doing a welfare check. Anonymous caller said there was yelling and crashing. I looked at my cat, who had 15 minutes earlier yeeted himself off the back of the couch trying to catch a shadow and taken a curtain rod with him. I told the deputies I live alone with one dumb orange cat and that the only thing in danger is drywall. One of them smiled with his mouth but not his eyes and asked if they could take a quick look around. I stepped aside. They did a lap that took less than a minute and the cat wound around the older one's boots like he was auditioning to be evidence. They asked me if I had any other concerns. I said I had a court order prohibiting contact except through counsel and could they make a note that I'd asked for copies of any calls to my address. They nodded. I closed the door and slid down it because I'm apparently a movie from 1999 now. I didn't sleep, but I also didn't vomit, and I'm calling that progress. Work tried to hand me normalcy. HR followed up with an email saying they documented the anonymous complaint as unfounded and that any future anonymous tips about employees would be routed through management before they take time from staff again. My boss put me on a steadier schedule instead of the some days 13 hours, some days surprise double carousel because he said routine is good for fellows. I told him I'd buy him a coffee and then did because I am a man of my word. I also got cornered at the time clock by a coworker who said he'd gone through a divorce where his ex made stuff up about him and that it gets better. He said it the way veterans say it heals when they can't show you their scars at the deli counter. The school counselor called again. She had added my email to the general list and I got a bulk blast about a fall festival. There was a line at the bottom, families are encouraged to participate in our coat drive. I sat in my car outside the grocery store and ordered 2 kids' coats off my phone and had them shipped to the school to the school counselor's attention. I didn't put a note. It felt like lighting a candle and putting it on a windowsill in a storm, not enough to change the weather, but enough to say we're still here. I did something small that felt like climbing a mountain in socks. I took down the little inside camera pointed at my back door and moved it so it only watches the cat's food bowls. It is a ridiculous symbolic gesture that made me cry. I left the door cameras up because I am not a complete idiot, but moving one lens away from the door and toward the world's dumbest roommate felt like telling my nervous system we weren't under siege in our own kitchen anymore. That night, my jaw didn't click when I yawned. Therapy brain nerd me wrote jaw CR in my notes app because I am now the sort of person who tracks his own face. My girlfriend and I found 2 hours that lined up and took a drive out to a flea market that looks like a county fair got trapped in a maze of sheds. We found a booth with vinyl stacked like pancakes. She pulled out the album I told you about, the first CD I ever bought for myself, the one she bought too when she was a kid, and it was right there, the vinyl pressing with a little ring wear and a price tag that made me say oof out loud. I bought it anyway and she made a sound that lives somewhere between a laugh and a nope. That night we put it on my cheap record player and stood in my living room and the first crackle sounded like youth. We danced badly. I cried halfway through track 3 because I'm apparently a faucet on a timer now, and she just put her forehead on my shoulder and let me be embarrassing in my own house. I ran into my kids by accident. This is the part where everyone's blood pressure goes up, so breathe. I was picking up drywall anchors at the home improvement store because of the cat's curtain rod stunt, and I turned down an aisle and there they were, halfway down, my daughter holding a pack of string lights and my son in a hoodie 2 sizes too big. My ex's best friend's husband was with them, which was a surprise until it wasn't. I stopped so fast my cart squeaked. My son saw me first. He did this half step like he was going to come down the aisle and then looked at the man he was with. I felt my heart fall out through my shoes. I backed up my cart without turning away and went down a different aisle and then walked straight to the customer service desk and asked them if they could walk me out because I needed to avoid someone for a court order. The clerk, a kid with a mustache that hasn't decided if it's going to commit, radioed a manager who walked with me to the lot while making small talk about drywall anchors like we were 2 human beings in a world where things can be simple. I sat in my truck afterward and called my lawyer and left a message saying what happened. Then I put my head on the steering wheel and let the air conditioner hit me in the face until my eyes stopped burning. I did not get arrested. Nothing exploded. I went home and hung my curtains back up and pretended to be a person again. I got a letter from my ex's attorney proposing we move the December date up if we can finalize everything in writing. I told my lawyer I'll sign if the language we agreed to in mediation stays as is and there are no surprise edits. He said he'd mark it up in red like Santa. He also asked me if I wanted to request attorney's fees for the EPO nonsense. I told him I am tired of being in rooms where I'm asking for things and that if he thinks it's worth it, go ahead, but I'm trying to buy back quiet. He nodded in lawyer, which looks like a blink. EMDR gave me a weird gift this week. My therapist had me focus on the feeling right before I hear knocks. My brain pulled up an image of my daughter when she was little and used to hide under the dining table during thunder and how I would slide her a grape and she would take it like a squirrel. I sat there with the buzzers in my hands and sobbed because my body doesn't always know the difference between a storm outside and a storm on my porch, but it remembered grapes in small moments anyway. I left therapy and went to the farmer's market and bought grapes like a man possessed and then came home and ate them one by one on my couch like a ritual. The cat discovered the cabinet where I keep ramen and spent 20 minutes distributing bricks of noodles around my kitchen like tarot cards. Past, present, chaotic future. He also learned how to turn on the touch lamp by the couch with his face. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the living room glowing like a haunted dentist and honestly it felt appropriate. My girlfriend met 2 of my friends from before all of this. We grabbed burgers at a place with sticky tables and neon. She made fun of me for putting ketchup on my fries like a 5-year-old and my friend told a story I'd forgotten about me getting my car stuck in a muddy field, trying to help someone move a couch. For an hour, I saw their faces without the worry lines I put there. On the drive home I told her I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop and she said, maybe it's a sandal, and I laughed so hard I almost missed our turn. A package showed up on my porch with my name on it in handwriting I recognized as my mother-in-law's. It was a box of recipe cards and a note on top that said, these were your grandmother's. I thought you might want them. That was it. No messages smuggled in, no guilt, just ink and cards. I sat on my kitchen floor and went through them and found one for sugar cookies in my grandmother's looping hand, sticky with something ancient. I propped it on my counter and took a picture and sent it to my girlfriend with December goal. She wrote back a heart, and then in sprinkles. Lots. I put the card in a plastic sleeve like it was a rare baseball card because some things deserve armor. I don't know where this lands us. Maybe we get the decree signed before the holiday displays turn into a peppermint onslaught. Maybe not. Maybe the judge says the words and I sit in my truck and let the world be loud around me and then drive to a thrift store and buy another stupid ceramic cat in a hat because apparently that's my new personality. I do know that when my phone lit up tonight with a number I didn't recognize, my stomach didn't do that full elevator drop. It was just a telemarketer trying to sell me siding. I told him I have a cat who believes walls are optional and I am not a good investment, and he laughed and told me to have a good night. Right now, the house is quiet. The porch light is on. The ornament from the thrift store is in a drawer, waiting. The memorandum for mediation is on my table next to the bowl of grapes I'm going to forget about until morning. The cat is asleep with one paw over his face like he's shielding his eyes from a future that might not be as bright or as cruel as I've been training for. I locked the door. I checked the cameras once. I'm going to bed.